I feel like, and the more I've thought about this, Monte, I might be giving way too much of the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the championship core. They've got it inside of them. And like, I understand you're always going to get the benefit of the doubt when you've won as many championships as this core has. At what point, though, did we say the Spurs are done? Because I don't know if I can pinpoint the exact moment.
Maybe 2018, when the Kawhi stuff started happening. When the Kawhi and Uncle Dennis, right before the 2019 season, when he got traded that summer. I was actually in Cuba when he got traded.
When like Tony Parker and stuff were calling him out for being soft and stuff like that.
I was in Cuba. We're all waiting for Kawhi to get traded. I remember finally got to the resort in Cuba. I was in Havana for the first part, Old Town Havana, so you got no ESPN. We get to the resort, and we're like, oh, we got a sports channel.
Oh.
And it was the day Kawhi got traded to Toronto. That's when I felt like the Spurs were done. That was 2019.
Done. Yeah, I might have put a fork in them prior to that. Like they're relevant, but it didn't mean like they were championship. But I could be wrong.
Well, 2017, they were up in game one on the Warriors. And they were up 23 at Oracle.
It's one game.
They were rolling.
Okay.
And remember that season.
Then his ankle got rolled.
It started, Zaza, July 1. I still don't think he can go back to San Antonio.
Nothing easy.
I love Zaza. But they started off the season going to Oracle Arena and winning by 30 against the Warriors.
Okay.
So that matchup, I thought was going to be tough for them. I'm not saying the Warriors would have lost that matchup, but that Spurs team was really, really good.
All right.
They were good.
When did we put a fork in the Lakers with Kobe and Gasol?
I mean, when they got swept by the Mavericks, we were like, yeah, they're done. When they got swept by the Mavs.
Okay.
And Andrew Bynum got kicked out of that game for, what did he do? Clothesline, J.J. Barrera?
How many more years after that?
Well, once Kobe tore his Achilles, it was night-night for sure.
Yes.
But that was their last.
That was the last kind of hurrah because Dwight Howard and the back spasm with Steve Nash. That was kind of it.
And that was the second-round team.
What year was that?
What year? It was 2011.
2011.
So...
And they were, 2 years removed from the championship? 09?
2011 is when they got popped against the Mavericks. And then about 2 years after that, when they got Steve Nash, like 2013-ish, remember that Steve Blake, Matt Barnes come in and stuff like that.
I guess where I'm going with is like there's a false clinging to the hope that your team is going to find a way to, reinvent itself on the fly with some of the core championship pieces. And the more and more I've thought about it, like they got to get an apex dude. The Warriors. Like if they have any shot of salvaging anything with 1, 2, 3 of these championship core guys from the glory years, they absolutely need a number one. Yeah. They need a guy in his prime who, alongside Steph Curry, on any given night can give you 30 and can get you bucket after bucket with stops on both ends of the floor with 5 minutes to go in a game.
Yeah, this season... It's been disappointing in a number of ways. It started off being disappointing with the Draymond Green suspensions, right? Then you get Andrew Wiggins' sporadic play. And we get the Klay Thompson. But Klay Thompson, to me, Klay Thompson's been great. I think he's done more for his value in terms of the open market more so than anybody on his team. Now, we have seen Jonathan Kuminga pop. But it took almost a report. It took almost him going to Steve Kerr saying, I need to play. And once they figured that out, he hasn't left the starting lineup. And he's been consistent. Curry's Curry. There's a tick down with Curry. He's slowing down just ever so slightly, but he's still dropping you 27, 5 and 5. Got no issue with Steph. Chris Paul's been very good off the bench for the Golden State Warriors. Been a very good professional for this team. Andrew Wiggins, to me, I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on with the consistency there. He was a consistent 19, 20 point per game scorer. I don't know what's going on. I can't put my finger on it. One day it looks like, boy, two-way Wiggs is back. Then you get a game like the New York Knicks where it's just a dud. Everybody laid a dud though. So I don't know. I don't know. It feels like this iteration of the Golden State Warriors, after they lost that series to the Lakers, the first time they lost in the Western Conference under Steve Kerr since he's been head coach of the Golden State Warriors, Now we're seeing it where they're struggling to get to the play. And I'm watching Minnesota last night against Denver. I'm like, damn, Minnesota's good.
OKC's good. Old in contrast.
Old. And every game.
Short.
Every game, too, whether it's against, hell, could be one of the worst teams in the league, the Charlotte Hornets. Like tonight, we're going to see the Memphis Grizzlies. It is a very real possibility that the Warriors are at an athletic disadvantage against the Memphis Grizzlies. You know what I'm saying? Because they are older. So I don't know where this thing's going to go. I know everybody's looking forward to the offseason. Fans are hitting me up on Twitter talking about, I'd rather see this team not make the playoffs. And I'm thinking to myself, you're crazy. I want playoff basketball no matter what. I want to make the playoffs.
For sure.
At least.
Well, especially in Curry's prime.
Curry's prime. I don't like,
you know.
Can you imagine a month from now, we're watching the playoffs and the Warriors are not sniffing the 8th seed? That would be insane. Insane.
Can I imagine it?
I mean, I guess we can imagine it.
Unfortunately, yes.
The Rockets 2.5 back of the Warriors.
They have fallen so bad. The Rockets are closer to them than they are to a real playoff spot. But the reality is, this team desperately needs to be thrown a lifeline by another player or another team in the league. I don't know what the quick fix is to get out of this. You need a disgruntled star somewhere. You know, the whale hunting. I know a couple years back, Miami, out of nowhere with no cap space, found a way to get Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
And that's what everyone points to. Like, well, hey, if the Heat can do it, anyone can do it. It's a very unique situation.
Yeah.
It's a very unique situation for a variety of reasons. And so I look at where the Warriors are at and like, hey, if Giannis, hey, if Embiid, hey, if Paul George, you're relying on outside forces to help reconstruct your roster. And even then, you're limited in what you can move and how you can move it. They're just in a really tough spot. And I've thought about it over and over and over. I don't know. There are a combination of things that have to happen, and I just don't know how plausible that is.
Paul George's going to be 34 next year as well.
Right?
So he's no spring chicken. I'm here.
And then how much of an upgrade is that?
Right, yeah, I'm not sure.
And I will take him.
Right. Pronto Communications on YouTube. Wiggins' game is letting the game come to him. Dubs used to have him bringing the ball up to get going. They don't do it much anymore. Problem is that JK and Wiggs should be the focus early. I kind of agree. I like when Steph Curry lets the game come to him. Also, I like it when he just explodes in the first quarter, sets the tone. I just love Steph Curry, period. But when you start ball pounding, and the Warriors do get in the habit at times of ball pounding, dribble, which is what they don't want to do. They love 0.5 basketball. We talk about the 300 passes they want per game minimum. I did notice Monday night, and with games that Andrew Wiggins doesn't produce, the ball just doesn't find him. Now, I remember a clip earlier on this season where Chris Paul is mic'd up and he's telling Andrew Wiggins, when you want the ball, you tell me, and you will get the ball. It's almost like Wiggins, we want you to demand to get the basketball a little more because the ball doesn't pop around. Especially when they fall behind and become 3-point crazy. And I don't know, man. Maybe Wiggins, a lot of fans probably think, man, who the hell is Wiggins? And like the game coming to Andrew Wiggins, a lot of people are scoffing at that right now. I get why a lot of people are down on Andrew Wiggins because of the sporadic play. But he is a rhythm player. And when that ball's hopping around and it's moving from side to side and he's touching it and feeling good, you do get better production from him. When you get the ball pounding, and Podziemski gets caught in that sometimes, and he'll learn from it. All of a sudden, the ball doesn't find Wiggins, doesn't find JK. And then we're looking up and we're saying, man, Wiggins only has 5 shots through the first 20 minutes of the game. How's that possible?
I see, but for me, like the offense is secondary to the rebounding and the defense.
Well, they're their best rebounding team in the league.
No, I'm talking about Wiggins in particular. I'm talking about Wiggins. Like I've never looked at him like he has to score 20. But they also had more firepower around him. Right. And so when you have a Jordan Poole dropping 20 points a game off the bench, you're not relying on Andrew Wiggins to get his shots in the same fashion. And it just feels like I don't see I'm going to lock down whoever is in front of me, and I'm going to rebound like a man possessed, and I'm going to attack the rim with authority. I see a lot of, I go to the rim, and I throw up something, and then it doesn't go in, and I kind of jog back, and he's just not engaged the way he was. Like, to me, it's very simple. It's engagement level.
Right. And the other night where you got Jalen Brunson out there playing for the Knicks, that's a night where the expectation is, Wiggins, you got that guy, you lock him up. You're our best individual perimeter defender, go lock him up. And now McBride got going, so maybe you change your defensive coverages, but That's the guy we all thought he was, the lockdown defender, and it just hasn't happened this year. It hasn't happened consistently, I should say. Consistently. But however, Steve Kerr, he's still, and since we're speaking of Wiggins, here's Steve Kerr on Andrew Wiggins.
We want Andrew to be more aggressive. He had a great game in L.A. on Sunday. I think the more aggressive he is looking for his shot, the better. There are times with our team where he gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. You know, we run our offense through Steph and Draymond, obviously. Chris Paul comes onto the floor, and he's going to have the ball in his hands. And, you know, Clay's going to get a lot of shots up. And I think sometimes Andrew gets lost, and he's not the kind of guy to demand the ball, you know, demand shots. So I think I've got to do a better job of keeping him engaged and really getting him in positions to attack and to be successful.
Is the Warriors' problem offensive or defensive?
Both. They're both connected.
Yeah, I might argue it's defensive more than offensive. But I will say they don't have the same punch that they've had in years past. That's like undeniable, right? But B, like their point of attack defense. Their ability to close out on people, to contest shots. These are all down from the glory years. They just don't have the athleticism that they've had in years past.
Right.
And, you know, having that legitimate two guard who can lock up on the perimeter, it hides so much of any of the deficiencies that they have in that backcourt. And I believe that it also, staying in front of people, allows you to play smaller players alongside those guys.
Well, you know, the thing with Wiggins and defensively with the Golden State Warriors, because defensively, yeah, they're not the same team. But I think that has to go with rim protection. You're the smallest team in the league. It really shows up on that side of the floor. And when you can't stay in front of your opponents, this is why when people say, start Chris Paul and Steph Curry, where you put yourself at a disadvantage defensively. They're very good team defenders, but individually, things are going to happen. Point guards in this league is so stacked. Like, that guard position is so stacked with just skillful players, whether it's Kyrie, whether it's Dame Dollar, whether it's Tyrese Maxey, Luka. I mean, there's so many good guards. So it's going to be hard to stay in front of the guys all the time. But when you don't have that rim protector, all of a sudden, you look at San Antonio, right? San Antonio is going to, in the future, with Wemby, they're going to be able to have guards who could just funnel their guys into Wemby.
Yes.
Warriors had that was Bogut, Zaza, JaVale McGee, where you could just funnel these guys into your bigs who could block shots or alter shots. You don't have that right now, so that's a problem defensively. And when you're not the most athletic team, these guys get into the paint, 2 feet in the paint, and break your defense down. All of a sudden, you're scrambling. And all of a sudden, you're seeing McBride hit wide open threes. All of a sudden, you're seeing whoever it was, Sohan for the Spurs hitting wide open threes a couple Saturdays ago against San Antonio because you're scrambling because you don't have the athleticism and you don't have the individual defenders that you once had on this team. So defensively, yes, they have taken a step back. Offensively, I just think in tight games, they just get too Steph reliant. Instead of the ball movement, you become too pick and roll reliant, which is why when these fans are like, oh, let Steph cook, put the ball in his hands, we see what happens when you do it. Teams double and make other guys score. And right now, they don't have those scorers on the floor all at the same time, Shasky.
There's so many ways. Like, I look at like Denver is a great example, and they're the reigning champs for a reason. Jokic is not a great defender. He's a wide body though. That's one thing, and that does matter when you're clogging the lane. But they have length, and I don't even think this guy's a good defender by any stretch. But Porter Jr. is long.
Yep.
Aaron Gordon is long.
Yeah, he's a good
is
defender.
much more rugged in the last couple of years than he had been in years past. So I believe that trio offsets whatever defensive efficiencies that you might have from Jokic. And he brings things to the table in terms of his girth.
Think about his run, Aaron Gordon last year as a defender.
I mean, he's amazing.
KD, LeBron, Jimmy Butler, first round Anthony Edwards. I mean, this guy.
He's athletic, long,
exactly.
And he's thicker than you think he is.
Yep.
Like, the Warriors are short and slow and old. That's a horrible recipe
for disaster.
Yeah, it's a horrible recipe.
And when you're small, you want to play faster.
Yes.
But when you're not defended and you're taking the ball out of the hoop, now all of a sudden these other teams, they're setting their defense. So, like, the whole small lineup in the past, like, everybody say, oh, man, the Warriors, small ball. To me, they were not small.
No.
Kevin Durant, Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green, that's not a small front line. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Klay Thompson, right there, two guard. Now, when you play small, You're really small with Pods
look,
and Curry and Draymond and Wiggins and Kuminga.
I mean this with all the praise in the world. When Clay was the elite defender that everyone remembers him as, it was a cheat code. Because not only did you have one of the greatest shooters off ball ever who didn't need to have the ball in their hand and would run around and just make things happen, creating space and just punish you if you took a misstep. Defensively, it allowed him to just completely take on in a one-on-one with no helps and no worrying, and he would stay in front of people who were half his size. And all of these elite perimeter players, whether it's Dame or James Harden, who were in the conference for many years with them, and I know there's many more now, but it was such a cheat code, right? And then it allows other guys to play dudes straight up. And at that time, you didn't have this emphasis on shooting that you have now. You could stash Steph Curry off ball and he can jump passing lanes and lay off people. Nowadays, it feels like the rosters have been so stacked with so much skill and so much shooting all over the place. You really can't hide defenders. No. And when you take away, again, one of the best on-ball perimeter defenders out there in Klay Thompson, it was him and Kawhi, like Kawhi to a higher degree.
Right.
It was a small list of guys. Just a couple of years ago, before Devin Bookers and guys like that started to come into the league, it was a cheat code for them.
Right.
And when you don't have that same cheat code, it changes dramatically the fabric of how you're fielding the team around them.
That's where you look at Andrew Wiggins, though, as the key figure here defensively. He was that guy who was the built-in replacement for Klay Thompson to defending these top guys. And in 2022, he did it very well. There's been a drop-off.
Agreed.
There. And we're waiting on Kuminga, who's just not experienced enough yet for that role. He's getting there, and he's very capable of doing that. But again, I don't like putting pressure on third-year players on the championship team or the championship core with the championship core. That's why Pods the other day, everybody's ripping Pods. Look, Pods, to me, has exceeded his expectations. We're 15 games out from the playoffs. Don't be blaming Pods. Pods is not the reason you're losing to the New York Knicks. Pods is playing this role. He's been thrust into a starting role, and I'm just trying to think how difficult that must be. I'm playing next to Steph, Dre, and at times Klay Thompson. I was just a Santa Clara 8 months ago. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard for me to go down Pod's road.
No, I'm not mad at Pods. Can I go to another person? Because I brought up Clay, and again, he got hurt. So I'm not ripping Clay. He got hurt. It changed who he was. Like, it's sad. It's like really sad, and everybody misses the old player that he was, and I'm trying to appreciate the last few years of his career, and he's evolving on the fly.